No one has stood up to your yet, but I guess it's going to take a corny whack rapping boy toy from Nickelodeon to set you straight. And trust, I'm going to be relentless. Even though I got a lot of other obligations and occupations, you are my new full-time job.
Welcome to the Gossip Channel. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We're growing with you and because of you. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Once we hit that milestone, a special prize will be waiting for you. Stay tuned. And now, let's get into the topic. Besides being mentor and mentee, Eminem and 50 Cent are straight-up best friends. They've stood side by side through wild award shows and straight-up ruthless rap beefs. And let's keep it real. When it comes to feuds, nobody plays dirtier than these two. Both Em and 50 built their names on disrespect. They'll drag anybody into the mud. From rivals like Ja Rule to ex-homies like The Game, and the crazy part, they seem to love every second of it. Fast forward to August 2023, Eminem linked with Ez Mill for a track called Realist. While it was Mill's big debut moment, Em stole the whole spotlight, unloading bars aimed at The Game. He wasn't just flexing, he was staking his claim as rap's top dog, daring anyone to even think about challenging his crown. Eminem spit, "All the envious rappers I torch if I'm on a joint with them, and that is the only retort is I'm not played in the clubs. Motherfucker put a cork in it. Only reason they still play your shit in the clubs is cause you still performing." That line was M going straight at The Game, firing back at his claim that M's music don't run the clubs anymore. The Game had tried to clown him with that long 10-minute diss track, Black Slim Shady, but M flipped it right back with a shot that hit deep. And this beef ain't random. It traces all the way back to GUnit days. It started when Dr. Dre spotted The Game's raw potential and threw him in with 50 Cent and the crew, thinking it would boost his rise in the industry. GUnit, the crew run by 50 Cent, was supposed to be The Game's launch pad. Dre thought tossing him into the squad would give him the boost he needed to drop his first album and make noise in the industry. But from day one, people were split. Some said it was a smart power move. Others whispered The Game was just riding 50's wave for clout. Still, that GUnit stamp put him shoulder to shoulder with two giants, 50 Cent and Eminem. And when the documentary finally hit shelves, nobody could deny it. The Game had bars and presence. The project blew up with critics and fans, proving he wasn't just hype, he had the skills to back it up. Tracks like How We Do and Hate It or Love It turned into instant hip-hop anthems, proving The Game could spit fire and tell stories that stuck with people. But while the documentary was climbing the charts, cracks were already starting to show between him and 50 Cent. The chemistry was fading fast. The first big red flag, the Hate It or Love It video shoot. Word got out that 50 flat out refused to sit next to Game in the car scene, and that little move sent the rumor mill spinning. Fans and insiders started whispering that the Brotherhood was already breaking down, and nobody really knew why. But one thing was clear. This was the spark that lit the fuse. What started as small cracks turned into a full-on series of clashes that only kept getting bigger. Even though the Hate It or Love It video dropped and got major praise, the behind-the-scenes tension couldn't stay hidden. The real breaking point came live on air when 50 Cent shocked everyone, straight up announcing The Game was no longer part of GUnit. That bombshell sent everything spiraling. The Game pulled up to the radio station, trying to get inside, and chaos exploded. Fists flying, crews colliding, and then shots rang out. It got so wild they had to spin the story and calm things down. By March 2005, both sides tried to patch it up publicly, acting like the beef was squashed. But everyone knew that peace was fragile. That so-called peace treaty didn't last long. Once The Game walked away from GUnit, the crew clowned him heavy, questioning his street credibility and loyalty. Instead of backing down, Game flipped the script, determined to prove he wasn't soft. He stormed into the booth and dropped the brutal diss track 300 bars and running, sparking a wildfire of back-and-forth shots between him and 50 Cent. From that point, it was open season. Both rappers unloading track after track, each one nastier than the last. The whole rap game was tuned in, picking sides like it was a championship fight. By 2006, though, the game surprised everyone, claiming he wanted to squash it all and even extended an olive branch to 50, hoping to stitch together what had already been ripped apart. But 50 Cent wasn't having it. He stayed stone cold silent, refusing to even entertain the idea of making peace. The feud hit insane levels, with over 100 diss tracks flying back and forth, keeping the war alive like it would never end. By 2010, the game took it public, jumping on Twitter to beg 50 to finally kill the beef and bury the bad blood. But the response? Nothing. Not a word from 50. Game kept trying, pushing for peace, but every time he reached out, 50 would clap back through the music, reigniting the fire instead of cooling it down. In 2012, the game even went as far as starting a petition for a full GUnit reunion, hoping to glue the shattered pieces back together. But the truth? That bond was already too broken. But Game's peace mission failed hard. GUnit shut him down, making it crystal clear they were moving forward without him. By 2014, the crew reunited at Summer Jam, and the message was loud. Game was officially on the outside, looking in. Fast forward to 2022, 50 Cent even clowned the game for posing in a picture with Lloyd Banks, calling out his motives like, "What you really doing here?" Game, on the other hand, tried to play it cool, saying the feud was dead and he had no beef with 50 anymore. But just when it seemed calm, another storm kicked up. This time with Eminem. The game came swinging with a diss track called The Black Slim Shady, taking aim not just at M, but at 50, and even Dr. Dre dragging their names straight into the fire. The game didn't just go at Dre and 50, he even dragged Eminem's daughter into the mix. The bars were vicious, tearing into M's personal life, career, and legacy, clearly designed to spark chaos and bait him into a war of words. When The Black Slim Shady dropped, the reactions were split right down the middle. Some fans hyped it up, calling Game fearless for daring to challenge one of rap's all-time giants. But others weren't buying it. They saw the whole thing as a desperate stunt for clout, more about headlines than bars. The diss instantly set the hip-hop world on fire, sparking non-stop debates online. Fans were drawing battle lines, some defending him like he was untouchable, others cheering Game for stepping up. Social media turned into a battlefield with fans ready to die on their hill for their favorite rapper. The diss track shook things up heavy, but it also made people question the game's real motives. Why aim straight at Eminem, one of the most respected legends in hip-hop? What was he really trying to prove? One major clue goes back to the Super Bowl 56 halftime show on February 13th, 2021. Dre, Snoop, and Eminem lit up the stage in one of the most talked about performances ever, but the game was nowhere to be seen. For someone who built his career with Dre's cosign and repped the West Coast so hard, his absence was loud. That snub cut deep, and insiders say it left Game salty. Being left out of a once-in-a-lifetime moment like that might have been the spark that pushed him to take shots at M and the whole camp. The game didn't hide his feelings. He jumped on social media, reposting Instagram stories that questioned why he got snubbed from such a huge moment for LA hip-hop. To him, it was simple. He repped the West harder than most, so why wasn't he on that stage with Dre and Snoop? Later, on the I Am Athlete podcast, Game let it all out. He admitted the Super Bowl exclusion stung bad, saying it felt like they painted him as unsafe, the kind of artist who might bring too much chaos to a live TV moment. That cut deep because in his mind, he wasn't just a West Coast rapper, he was one of the pillars who helped keep Dre's legacy alive. The game felt like his rawness and authenticity were being ignored, while safe artists got the spotlight. By March 2022, he hit Drink Champs with NORE and DJ EFN, and that's where he let the bombshells fly. First, he downplayed Dr. Dre's role in his career, claiming Kanye West had done way more for him in recent years than Dre ever did. Then he doubled down and went after Eminem. saying straight up he was the better rapper and daring Em to face him in a versus battle. It wasn't just confidence. Game was openly challenging the idea that Eminem sat above him, calling for a head-to-head showdown to prove who really ran the mic. Even after catching heavy backlash online for his Drink Champs comments, the Game refused to fold. In an Instagram video right after the interview, he doubled down, saying he was absolutely better than Slim Shady. He admitted folks would have their own opinions, but he stood firm that in his eyes, he was the superior rapper. Game even threw out the idea of a full-on rap battle or maybe even a collab to prove his point, anything to settle it in the open. But the big question lingered. Would this war between Game, Eminem, and 50 ever end, or was it destined to keep dragging on? And just when one feud had the streets buzzing, another messy rumor was brewing, this time tying Eminem's name to Mariah Carey and later pulling Nick Cannon straight into the fire. At first, Mariah Carey tried to shut down the dating rumors, but Eminem poured gasoline on it in his track Bagpipes from Baghdad off his Relapse album. In that joint, he didn't just hint, he went all in, bringing up his alleged past with Mariah while throwing wild shots at Nick Cannon, who was her husband at the time. The bars were raw and unfiltered. Mariah, whatever happened to us, why did we have to break up? Before snapping with, Nick Cannon better back the fucks up. I'm not playing, I want her back, you punk. And he didn't stop there. He kept going, taunting Nick with, you had your fun, I've come to kick you in your sack of junk. Those lyrics hit like a bombshell, and Nick wasn't having it. He clapped back quick, threatening to sue Em in a heated Tumblr post, one he later deleted, but not before it had everyone talking. Nick Cannon didn't hold back either. He fired off saying, I guess it's gonna take a corny, whack-rapping boy toy from Nickelodeon to set you straight. And trust, I'm gonna be relentless. Even though I got a lot of other obligations, you are my new full-time job, homie. That was Nick declaring all-out war. And it wasn't just him. Mariah Carey herself slid into the feud with her hit Obsessed. The music video showed her dressed up like Eminem, mocking him outright, which only poured more fuel on the fire. For a while, the drama cooled off, but in September 2019, it flared right back up when Cannon hit T.I.'s Expeditiously podcast. He recalled a private jet ride with Eminem, saying Em was dropping a track dissing Mariah while he sat there seething, feeling like he had to step up and protect his wife's name no matter what. Nick Cannon even sat down and wrote a long letter to Eminem, showing respect for him as an artist, but at the same time demanding accountability for the disrespectful shots he threw. To most people, Nick's approach looked calm and mature, but to Eminem, those words were pure provocation. Em didn't stay quiet. He came back swinging through the music once again. This time he chose Fat Joe's track Lord Above as the battlefield. On his verse, Em spit, I know me and Mariah didn't end on a high note, but that other dude's whipped, he got him neutered. Tried to tell him this chick's a nut job before he got his jewels clipped, almost got my caboose kicked. It was classic Slim Shady, slick, brutal, and straight to the point, leaving no doubt the beef was back on. Eminem snapped back with lines like, fool quit, you're not gonna do so. I'd let her chop me off too before I lose to you, Nick. That bar alone lit the internet on fire. Nick Cannon wasn't about to stay quiet. He jumped on Instagram, clowning, Fat Joe's album is star-studded, and he even did some charity work, digging Eminem out his grave. I mean, cave. Then he upped the stakes, publicly inviting Em to face him head-on on his MTV show, Wild and Out. But Nick didn't stop there. He dropped his own diss track, The Invitation, and he went for the jugular. He rapped, call Kim, somebody get Haley, and that other kid you raising, that ain't even your baby. My baby mama killed you off a decade ago. You're still crying about it. Now who really crazy? Fans were instantly split. Some thought Nick was wild for crossing lines. Others said he finally stood toe-to-toe with Slim. Some folks applauded Nick Cannon for standing tall, saying he was just defending his wife's honor and refusing to fold under Eminem's brutal shots. They praised the courage, calling it real man energy. But plenty of others weren't impressed. They said Nick was dragging a dead feud, refusing to move on, and only keeping old wounds open for clout. Meanwhile, the media turned the beef into a circus. Tabloids and blogs ran wild, covering every diss, every post, every subliminal, blowing it up bigger than ever. Headlines screamed with drama, and fans ate it up like a soap opera, hungry for every twist in the war. Still, buried in all the chaos were voices begging for peace, people tired of the back and forth who wanted the madness to finally die down. Some fans begged for peace, saying Eminem and Nick Cannon should just bury the hatchet and get back to making music instead of dragging out a never-ending feud. They wanted closure, a clean slate that would finally kill all the animosity. But the beef had grown bigger than them. It had a life of its own. Eminem and Nick kept trading shots, using tracks and social media as their weapons. The drama even bled into their personal lives, with Nick sampling M's old controversial songs just to paint him in a bad light and chip away at his legacy. And with 50 Cent standing firmly in Eminem's corner, the feud became a tangled mess, a three-way war that still hovers over hip-hop like unfinished business. On the surface, things look calmer now. The wild back and forth between Eminem, 50, Game, and Nick Cannon has slowed down, with each of them locked in on new ventures. But fans and insiders ain't buying the peace act. Even though the public sees quiet, many believe there's still smoke hiding under the ashes. Their long history of shots, disrespect, and personal digs makes it hard to believe it's really over. People know all it takes is one lyric, one interview, one shady social media post for the fire to roar back. That's why fans keep dissecting every bar, every IG caption, every stage moment, convinced they'll catch the next subliminal jab or hidden diss that proves the feud is far from dead. Speculation about this feud has gone way past the music. Fans can't help but question if it's all personal, old grudges, bruised egos, and wounded pride, or if there's a business play in motion, with each artist milking the beef for headlines and relevance. Was it heartbreak or was it strategy? Only time will tell what's real and what's smoke. But one thing's clear, this saga runs deep. Back in 2005, Nick Cannon and Mariah Carey first crossed paths at the Teen Choice Awards, and by 2008, they were married. So when Eminem's diss record started flying, Nick wasn't just clapping back as a rapper, he was a husband defending a new marriage, which explains why his stance was so fierce. Mariah and Nick's marriage didn't survive. They split in 2016, after 8 years together. Still, Nick never stopped defending her name, and the two managed to stay civil while co-parenting their twins, Moroccan and Monroe. But the drama didn't end there, because 50 Cent eventually got dragged into the feud too. On his podcast, Nick decided to clown 50's weight, cracking jokes about his appearance. He even went as far as saying 50 looked like he had a pack of hot dogs in the back of his neck, and doubled down with, "He is fat, that's straight funny." At first, 50 played it cool like it didn't bother him, but with someone like Fif, you know he never lets a shot slide for long. 50 Cent finally clapped back at Nick Cannon with a slick jab on Instagram. He posted a message about relying on God, hinting that real success comes from faith and grind, not cheap stunts. In the caption, he warned anyone trying to use his name for promo, saying, if your marketing campaign is say something about 50, you're not gonna make it. Have a nice day. That was Fif sending a clear warning shot straight at Nick. And this wasn't even the first time. Back in 2020, during an interview on The Breakfast Club, 50 weighed in on the Nick versus M feud. He made it clear that Eminem lives for lyrical combat and actually gets more dangerous when pushed. The host also brought up Nick's track, Used to Look Up to You, and 50 confirmed it wasn't even about Eminem. It was a diss aimed right at him. 50 didn't hold back. He flat out said Nick Cannon's rap skills were weak and even branded him legendary corny from the beginning. The hosts agreed, admitting they couldn't figure out why Nick was so desperate to spar with M or 50, with Fif cutting straight to the point, "You suck, bro." And 50 kept the jabs rolling in other interviews too. Talking with Forbes' Brian J. Roberts, he laughed about Nick's personal life, cracking jokes about him having 12 kids. Fif even joked that while he regretted buying a mansion too big for himself, maybe Nick and his dozen kids would have actually needed it. At the end of the day, the Eminem-Nick Cannon saga remains one of the wildest, most debated feuds in hip-hop history. And trust, the streets are still watching every move. Will they ever bury the hatchet, or is this feud destined to keep smoldering, waiting to erupt again at any second? Only time will tell if Eminem, 50, and Nick Cannon's war ever truly ends. But let's rewind to another legendary beef. 50 Cent versus Ja Rule. Back in the late 90s, things got ugly fast. It all kicked off in 1999 when Ja Rule was robbed at gunpoint during a video shoot. Word spread that someone tied to 50 was the one who snatched Ja's chain in the chaos. According to 50, Ja later bumped into him and his affiliate at a club. But instead of talking it out, Ja acted cold, which only added fuel to the tension. Ja Rule, on the other hand, denied ever seeing them together that night, setting up years of messy back and forth. Ja Rule admitted the robbery really happened, but he swears the beef wasn't about that. He says it all started because 50 felt snubbed by Murder Inc., Ja's label, during the shoot for his single Murder for Life. That same year, 50 struck back the way he knew best, with a diss track. He dropped Life's on the Line, going straight at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. with no filter. The track was supposed to sit on 50's shelved debut album, Power of the Dollar, but that project never officially dropped. Meanwhile, Ja Rule's debut, Veni Vedi Veci, exploded, selling millions and putting him in the spotlight while 50's moment was stalled. By 2000, things only got worse. Both rappers ended up booked at the same Atlanta nightclub, and the tension was thick enough to spark a war on site. What should have been just another night of performances quickly turned ugly. A shouting match between 50 and Ja exploded into a physical clash. But things really crossed the line later in 2000 when 50's GUnit crew ran into Murder Inc. at the Hit Factory Studios in New York. Word is, Ja Rule got tipped off that 50 was recording there and pulled up with backup. The confrontation spun out of control and chaos broke loose inside the studio. During the brawl, Murder Inc. rapper Blackchild allegedly stabbed 50, leaving the tension between the camps hotter than ever. From that moment on, there was no turning back. 50 Cent and Ja Rule weren't just rivals, they were sworn enemies. Those wild incidents between 1999 and 2002 laid the foundation for one of the most explosive and bitter feuds in hip-hop history. In 2002, 50 Cent dropped his breakout single Wanksta, widely seen as a shot at Ja Rule. The track blew up, peaking at number 13 on the Billboard charts, and cemented 50 as hip-hop's next powerhouse while pouring gasoline on their feud. That same year, Murder Inc.'s Irv Gotti tried to stain 50's image, claiming he filed an order of protection against him and Ja. But Fif denied it, and the streets didn't buy the narrative. His rep stayed solid. It later surfaced that the order of protection wasn't filed by 50 himself. Cops issued it automatically on his behalf. Still, the beef only got hotter. From 2002 to 2003, both rappers went to war on wax. 50 dropped I Smell P. Yee, Back Down, and even remixed Hail Mary to mock Ja's obsession with Tupac. Ja fired back with Loose Change and Guess Who Shot Ya, keeping the shots flying. This back and forth had fans hooked, waiting on every new release, and the feud kept making headlines well into the late 2000s and 10s. For a moment, it looked like peace, but that illusion shattered quick. In 2013, during his Hot 97 Summer Jam set, 50 couldn't resist mocking Ja Rule and Murder Inc. again, even performing I Smell P. to reignite the feud on stage. Then, in 2014, Ja turned up the heat in his memoir Unruly, accusing 50 of tipping off police and sparking a federal probe into Murder Inc. 50 shot the claims down in 2015, brushing them off while the industry moved on to new rap beefs like Drake versus Meek Mill. Even on Twitter, 50 and Ja couldn't stop clashing. Both surprisingly agreed that the Drake versus Meek Mill beef was nothing compared to their own war. In 2017, Ja Rule caught major heat for the Fyre Festival disaster, which turned into one of the biggest scams in music history. 50 pounced on the moment, roasting Ja non-stop on social media and dragging his name through the mud. By 2018, things flared up again online when Ja fired shots at 50 on Twitter, sparking yet another round of bitter back-and-forth insults between the two. The feud turned downright petty in 2018 when 50 claimed he bought 200 front-row seats to a Ja Rule show in Vegas just so the crowd would look empty. He even photoshopped himself sitting alone in the vacant chairs to rub it in, savage trolling at its peak. By 2019, Ja fired back, clowning 50 for his ties to Tekashi 6999, who was locked up and labeled a snitch. Ja didn't hold back, comparing Tekashi and 50 directly, calling them both rats. And even Eminem got pulled into the mess, not by choice, but because of his close ties with 50. That's when Ja Rule aimed his shots at Em with the infamous diss "Loose Change." Ja Rule crossed the line when he dissed Eminem's family, rapping, "Em, you claim your mother's a crackhead and Kim is a known slut. So what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?" That jab lit a fire under Eminem like never before. Em came back swinging with diss tracks like Haley's Revenge and a remix of Tupac's Hail Mary alongside 50 Cent and Busta Rhymes. Ja Rule answered with clapback, but Em dropped Go to Sleep, making it clear he wasn't playing games. By 2004, though, Eminem declared he was done, saying Shady Records had already won the war and the beef wasn't even worth his time anymore. By the mid-2000s, Ja Rule's beef with 50 and Eminem started to look unprofitable, even childish.
To stir it up, but Afrojack has been talking shit about you. Anything you want to say? Who? Afrojack? Who? That's what I thought. Thank you.
Hey, you sucker. And what's up, me, you sucker? I should black you.
At one point, he hinted at wanting peace in an interview, but later doubled back, saying he and 50 were sworn enemies for life. That contradiction cemented their feud as one of the longest running in hip-hop history. And just when one war cooled, another one started brewing, this time with Joe Budden. In hip-hop, pressure always finds a way to explode, and the seeds of the Budden-Eminem feud were planted back in 2011 when Slaughterhouse, the supergroup of Joe Budden, Royce da 5'9", Joel Ortiz, and Crooked White, signed to Shady Records. When Slaughterhouse signed with Shady Records, fans were cautiously excited, hoping the group would finally get the shine they deserved. But once work began on their major label debut, Welcome to Our House, cracks started forming quick. Eminem, as executive producer, had his own vision for the project, one that leaned more commercial with polished hooks and mainstream appeal. That was a sharp contrast to the raw, bar-heavy sound that built Slaughterhouse's cult following. For Joe Budden, who earned respect grinding independently and flooding the streets with mixtapes, the shift felt like betrayal. Watching their gritty identity morph into something glossy was a bitter pill he wasn't ready to swallow. Joe Budden believed Slaughterhouse didn't need Eminem's formula to win. He thought the group could have thrived as an indie powerhouse, dominating festivals and building their own lane. The creative clash with Em grew deeper, and on his podcast, Joe let all his frustration spill. He said flat out the group would have been bigger without Em's involvement, even claiming Slaughterhouse was better than him. But it wasn't just vision. Joe went at the music itself. He trashed the beats Em produced for their album, calling them horrible and not fit for Slaughterhouse's style. To Joe, Em and his manager Paul Rosenberg didn't just mismanage the brand, they forced a formula that stripped the group of its raw identity and pushed it toward collapse. The tension between Eminem and Joe Budden finally exploded with Kamikaze. On the album, Em took aim at a list of rappers, and Joe wasn't spared. While MGK clapped back with Rap Devil and others like DeAntwoord and Lil Yachty fired off their own responses, Joe went nuclear. He used his podcast as a battlefield, ripping into Eminem with a fiery rant. Joe questioned M's character, business sense, and even his relevance in hip-hop, saying his music was stale and his presence overblown. This wasn't just rap beef, it was personal. Budden made it clear he believed M's influence had crippled Slaughterhouse instead of elevating them. And with that, the feud grew from studio tension into a straight-up war of words. KXNG Crooked, another Slaughterhouse member, shed light on the deeper cracks between Joe Budden and Eminem during an IG Live. He revealed that Joe had long been salty about how M handled, or failed to handle, Slaughterhouse's career. That revelation only made the feud messier. Joe's harsh criticism of Eminem's Revival album poured gasoline on the fire. Fans were convinced M's bars on Chloroseptic, where he mentioned reaction videos, were aimed directly at Joe. The beef got even hotter when Bizarre from D12 jumped in, blasting Joe for disrespecting M. Joe didn't hold back either. He shot back with a full-on physical threat, proving the feud was spiraling way beyond music. 50 Cent couldn't resist jumping into the feud. He trolled Joe Budden on Instagram, hinting that Joe had a serious whooping coming his way. With 50 now in the mix, the battle between M, Joe, and GUnit's boss got even nastier. In 2018, Eminem sat down for an exclusive interview with Sway that had fans glued in. They covered Revival, the surprise Kamikaze drop, and of course, his beefs. When Joe's name came up, M kept it blunt. Me and Joe Budden aren't friends like that. But while I was out here doing interviews and pushing Slaughterhouse every chance I got, he was using his platform to trash me. That statement made it clear M felt betrayed, and this wasn't just music, it was personal loyalty on the line. Eminem explained that Kamikaze was him letting loose, airing out his raw opinions on everybody. While talking with Sway, he also broke down the downfall of Slaughterhouse and their shelved project Glass House. According to M, they had more than enough songs to finish the album, but the group just couldn't get on the same page. Everyone had different favorites, nobody could agree, and the vision fell apart. M figured they'd regroup, add a few more tracks, and push forward, but instead, silence. Nothing happened. By then, M admitted he was already knee-deep in Revival, leaving the Slaughterhouse dream in limbo and fueling Joe Budden's resentment even more. Eminem reflected on the backlash Slaughterhouse got for their 2012 album, Welcome to Our House. Fans felt it was too polished, too mainstream, and M admitted that's why he stayed hands-off. "We left the ball in their court. I didn't want to touch it, other than give my opinion on songs," he said. But things soured when Joe Budden started questioning the money, asking who got paid and who didn't. M shrugged it off, saying he didn't care if he made a dime. He believed in the group. To him, it was never about the cash, it was about loyalty and artistry. At the end of the day, in hip-hop, you need a mentor, a best friend, and a deadly rhyme to silence the doubters. And that's exactly what Eminem and 50 Cent represent. Like this video, hit subscribe to Gossip, smash that like button, and drop a comment below. See you on the next one.